throat. You put your hands in his shirt. You play him records I show. You read him Sylvia Plath. I thought that that was our thing. You know I like you like that. I hate that son of a bitch. We've been best buds since 13, but that don't change the things I feel. Oh, when I see you smile with your teeth at Eugene, yeah, I can't deal. Hey, yeah, I know I've been a little bit off, and that's my mistake. Yeah, I kind of fell half in love, and you're to blame. Yeah, I guess I just forgot that we've been made since day. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Hey, I know I've been a little bit off, and that's my mistake. Yeah, I kind of fell half in love, and you're to blame. Yeah, I guess I just forgot that we've been made since day. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
If ever I could see you again. If ever I could see you again. Won't you take me back to where we used to play? Hang on every word, hang on every moment. I know you're in between now, and I know you can't stay. Give me one more rising sun, just one more setting moment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amber Garcia, Executive Director of Women's Voices for the Earth, also known as WEAVE. Again, thank you so much for being here to help us celebrate another year of growth, change, strength, and collaboration that are the cornerstones of WEAVE's work. While we wish we could all be together in person, we recognize that we're all living through another year of a global pandemic, and that feeling your presence virtually still feels like the safest way to gather. Also, while we've had our fair share of virtual events, we know there's always room for technical difficulties. So please bear with us if we come up against any snags. And I have a few things to tell you before we get started. So first, on how to navigate Zoom. Just know that you will automatically be muted and don't have to worry about video or audio settings. I want to give the heads up that closed caption will be available in the event recording that you all will receive in an email after the event. And with so much gratitude, I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, from our community partners to business partners and individual donors. We appreciate your support so much. That brings me to the goals for the evening. Of course, to share in a night of storytelling with talented and inspirational leaders in the movement and in their local communities, to explore what and who inspires them to lead and what drives their passion to fight for change in their homes, in their schools, with their families, and in their neighborhoods. Like many of you, our speakers tonight, we're guided into public action through very personal experiences with exposure to toxic chemicals. And we're here for another reason, of course, to raise funds to support WEAVE's work for the years to come. We have many special guests here tonight. Been loving seeing all the folks in the chat and new and old. It's good to see your names and just say hello. And we have another special guest here with us tonight, former WEAVE board member and current and always friend to the organization, Allison Chin, who has offered to match up to $25,000 in gifts. So thank you, Allison. And again, we're truly grateful for your continued investment in our work. This means that any gift that any of you make tonight will be doubled. So please listen, learn, and then click the donate button at the bottom of your screen to double your impact. I know it will be also placed in the chat. Yes, I see the chat going on. So now that we've covered some housekeeping items, I'm excited to begin the conversation of WEAVE's work at the intersections of environmental health. Beginning with, why are we calling this event WEAVINGS? Many of you have actually heard our acronym WVE pronounced WEAVE. And while using this phrase WEAVE is slightly a bit of internal jargon we've been using for years, we actually think it is incredibly fitting to who our organization is and how we do our work. Just some historical context, weaving is an art form historically done by women to turn standalone strands into useful, durable, and often beautiful renewed forms. But this also very much describes the work you help us do every day by enabling us to weave together and amplify diverse voices to make products safer for our bodies, healthier for our communities, and friendlier to our planet. We also work to illuminate the connection between the harms of toxic exposures and other issues that impact our well-being, like body shaming and racist marketing, chemical pollution in our cities and public spaces, lack of access to needed and affordable products, and much more, right? The weaving of voices and issues creates a strong and effective movement with powerful leaders, like our speakers tonight, that are making change happen. And for us, with change comes optimism for our collective future. Tonight, we're hearing from some of those voices who are helping to form, shape, and build the future of the environmental health movement, not only for the next generation, but here and now in their own communities. Like many of you, our speakers tonight have been personally impacted by exposure to toxic chemicals and are concerned about the health and safety of their bodies, homes, and the natural world. Many have taken on leadership roles in their locales, often by necessity, the need to address toxic exposures that are making themselves and their friends and loved ones sick. They're working with parents and teachers to take on harmful disinfectants in local schools. They're talking with the media about exposure to poisonous formaldehyde in the workplace. They're hosting workshops on college campuses focused on destigmatizing conversations around menstrual health. And they're also leading field studies to train others on how to read labels on period products. So each story you'll hear tonight is different, but shares a common thread of empowerment, community, strength, and leadership. Like our speakers, and like so many advocates, I too was brought into the movement through my own personal experiences in my community and more intimately within my family. So I'm the eldest of 4 girls and grew up in various communities of Spanish speakers, white folks, people of mixed economic statuses, and much of my youth was spent learning about justice and being active in those communities with my parents and siblings and cousins. In college, I organized and educated my peers about the importance of voting, and later on found my political home in the reproductive justice movement through familial and community ties. Through those times, I saw how gender and bodily autonomy were politicized, how Black and brown bodies are valued less, and how poor people are dehumanized by a system that puts profits over people. And all of that lit a fire under me and still does every day. Working on abortion rights and voting rights at the same time made sense to me because it was clear that the many issues that so many brown, Black, queer, trans folks face, all of us face, are woven together to create compounded barriers to freedom and thriving communities. And then as I ventured out into working with people with shared values across the country, I was drawn to WEAV's work because toxic chemical exposure impacts my wife, for example, as a hairstylist and salon owner, my sister and mother who clean professionally, and the many women in my life who suffer from reproductive health issues. So working in the environmental health movement was a shift from my work in the RJ movement, but is so important because collaborating across movements is how we're going to stay aligned as we hold accountable the people in power that make decisions on, who can work and live in our country, on how corporations are held accountable, on what rights pregnant people have, on how we address state violence, and on how we navigate public health and climate crises. So what I've learned along the way in my own leadership journey is the value of mentorship above all. Through my work with middle, high school, and college students, I found some of the greatest mentors are young people. I learned so much from my time teaching comprehensive sexual education to young folks and taking young adults to lobby Congress. And I continue to learn from and be inspired every day by our fellows and interns at WEAVE. Taking guidance from my teachers and other leaders in the social justice and racial justice movements, I am leading WEAVE's work to prioritize leadership development in our national action groups, through our trainings and workshops, internships, and more recently in our new fellowship program, which is designed to train, resource, and support high school and college age activists. You'll meet some of those leaders tonight and hear from them what calls them into activism, what ignites their passion to create a safer and healthier existence. And I hope you will be inspired by their stories as well as see yourself in them. I hope they will drive your passion to build change, to learn from each other, to ensure people have the tools and resources that are going to help the unique needs of individuals and their own lived experiences. Because it's those unique needs mean addressing, climate change, gender-based violence, racism and classism, workers' rights issues, because the harms from toxic chemicals is widely woven into the fabric of injustices and inequities that burden the most vulnerable in our society. By joining us tonight, you're helping us to collectively build the strength and diversity of this movement. And you are an invaluable thread, and together we can create renewed forms for a better, sustainable future. And with that, I would like to introduce Isabella Rosales. Welcome, Isabella.
Thank you, Amber.
Yes,
I just want to.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, we're having a thank you battle because I was just going to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this space and for inviting me to share my story. That I'm always so happy to be a part of anything WEAVE, anything WEAVE with its voices for the earth. So I'm happy to be here and thank you.
We're thrilled to have you here tonight. So I'm just going to tell you all a little bit about Isabella before she gets into her presentation here. Isabella is a second-year doctoral student in the study of religion at the University of Denver and Iliff School of Theology with a certificate in Latinx Studies. And so both on and off campus, she engages in community organizing and equity advocacy work, specifically with Latinx and gender inclusive communities and organizations. She particularly enjoys facilitating group dialogues surrounding identity, privilege, and oppression within the classroom and outside of academia as well. In 2020, Isabella was hired as a menstrual equity organizing fellow at WEAVE and worked with and learned from fellow menstruators to destigmatize the ways in which we as a society at large talk about menstruation. The transformational learning experience in the classroom, as well as in community organizing settings, is what brings Isabella back to these professional and personal experiences over and over again. She consistently seeks people and organizations with whom to learn how to better show up in our communities and encourage human flourishing. And she is grateful to share her experiences with the hope that she can inspire others to engage in raising their personal consciousness so we can continue to honor ourselves and love the differences in each other. And I'll turn it back over to you, Isabella.
So I'm a student, as Amber said. I do slides to help navigate the way I talk, otherwise I get lost. Again, my name is Isabella. My pronouns are she, her, hers, ella. And I actually was born in Iowa, which really shaped the way that I felt this phrase, which I am taking from Gloria Anzaldúa, ni de aquí ni de allá. So in Spanish, it means not from here, not from there, from neither place. This is a feeling that I didn't have words to describe as I was growing up in northeastern small town Iowa, but it was something that I felt and embodied. And so as I was growing up in this context, I actually found a lot of respite and joy in the arts, in the performing arts. And I was dedicated to becoming the first Disney princess from Mexico. That was going to be my career. I was going to do musical theater. I was going to be on the stage because that's where I really felt like I could live into who I was. And it was interesting how the arts really attracted those of us who felt maybe socially marginalized or excluded from mainstream activities in northeastern Iowa. But although I was accepted into a musical theater program in Chicago, my father got very sick the summer before I was supposed to leave. And because of the cultural context of my family, it didn't feel right in my heart or in my body to leave my dad when he was so ill mentally and physically. So I stayed in my hometown and went to the small liberal arts school there that did not have a music program, did not have a musical theater program. It was just a liberal arts school, so I had to take a variety of classes. But this liberal arts school and this moment where my father was sick and the entire direction of my life changed, I still sort of hope that I'll be the first Disney Mexican princess. But the entire direction of my life changed because of my experience in this school and the professors that I came into contact with. I have on the right kind of a collage of the voices and the scholars that have inspired me, that have paved the way for me to be in a joint doctoral program in religion, but with the intention to do critical race theory, anti-colonial theory, Latinx feminism, and Latinx studies. It's because of these people. And I have professors from my undergraduate featured here. I have professors from my master's program. And then on the bottom, I have Gloria Anzaldúa, from whom I took the quote on the first page. I wanted to just go through these consciousness raising moments that have occurred for me throughout the course of my education. When I was an undergrad, I would say that I was pleasantly lost because I've always been a very happy person. I've always felt very at ease talking to other people and in learning environments. And I think that's the performance in me. That's the performance arts culture in me. And I, because of my cornerstone value of family first, I was happy to be in my hometown, to be close to my dad. And I think that this opened me up to the experience of falling in love with religious studies, which was the last thing I really expected myself to fall in love with growing up in a fairly culturally Catholic and religious household. Although my parents were very open, it was still harmful in many ways in the way that it induced a shame narrative that I'm still doing work on to deconstruct. In my Intro to New Testament course, I told my professor, I put a picture of him here, Reverend Dr. Guy Nave, that I was pleasantly lost in how I felt about religion. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I I didn't have a vocabulary to describe the way that I was experiencing the world. I didn't have a vocabulary because I grew up in a part of the world where my identity was isolated and without affinity. It wasn't until I encountered Dr. Tink Tinker, who I have a photo in the at the top of the screen, that I knew that there were scholars and voices out there who were speaking to the kind of decolonial deconstruction that I needed for my hybrid identity, my indigenous identity, my white identity, my Mexican identity, my Latinx identity, and my Latina identity. All of these words became like a map for me to explore myself and to locate myself within any given social location and context. And I call this an ethics of place. So my human hybridity then helped me to develop who I am as a person, which changes depending on place and space. And if it wasn't for Dr. Tink Tinker, Dr. Gainave, and Dr. De La Torre, who actually coined ethics of place and is my mentor to this day, I wouldn't be able to describe myself in this way or have a voice in academia in a way that I feel like impacts change in the institution. It is because of my experience in in-between spaces, my experience of having grown up in Northeastern Iowa, but as one of the only families in a Spanish-speaking household, my experience of being one of the only people of color in my undergraduate degree program that got a degree in religious studies, and then one of the only students of color in my master's program to go on to the joint doctoral program. Currently in my PhD program, I am one of 2 women in my cohort. And what I'm learning now, as I keep moving forward in this path of scholar activism, is that responsible relating and honoring the unique integrity of lived experiences of everyone I come into contact with is what gets me through every day and what gets me to come back to these kinds of spaces. And it was through my academic program that I met Maria Ignacia during my master's program. And I remember her community organizing workshop and community identity workshop. And it resonated with this entire vocabulary that I was gaining in my academic pursuits. And so it was through that connection that I was able to not only theorize, but practice. So I came to realize as I was in my master's program that all of this theory, all of this vocabulary was useless unless I was involved in my community. I did the steps and I work up the ladder, the hierarchical ladder of the academic institution. I check the boxes, I get the A's, and I write the essays that are required in order to do the next step. But all of this is empty without community praxis. And it was Women's Voices for the Earth was one of the first professional nonprofit experiences that I had as a student. And I was able to integrate my scholarship with my community organizing and activism in a way that fused my performance abilities and my social justice oriented values and my scholar activism in a really beautiful way. I wanted to share one more quote, and I do slides because I know I can go off and talk for forever, so I am wrapping up. But I wanted to share one more quote from Gloria Ansaldúa, because throughout all of this, I have consistently honored that the reality that I am where I am today because of those who came before me, and because of the complexities of their identities and how their identities show up in me. And so I won't read through this entire quote, but the message of it is that when I show up in a space, I bring with me kind of the baggage of all of the identities of my ancestors. And not necessarily in my context, my Indian grandmother, the Spanish father, and then the Anglo. I have all of these influences in me and in my blood. And so it impacts the way that I continue to show up, not only in the academy, but in community organizing and activist spaces. And these are pictures, me and my father, Raimundo Rosales, me and my abuelo, and then me and my mom. Elizabeth. And I post these pictures because not only is my life and my vocation a direct impact of their lives, but also because I bring them with me everywhere I go, and I just wanted to bring them into this space. Familia, community, and gente. Again, I wanted to end this with an honoring of, usually I start this way, but I wanted to end my story with honoring all of the people that support me, all of the people that listen to me every day when I have a new idea from a reading assignment, the people who read my papers first, my first editors, the people who I go to talk to about new jobs, the people who I debrief with. They're my partner and my parents, my aunts and my uncles and my grandparents, and then the communities that I work with as well. And so Women's Voices for the Earth is one of the two communities that I've done community organizing work in Denver with. I've also worked with the Colorado Organization for Latina Opportunity and Reproductive Rights. And so both experiences not only have really helped to continue to synthesize the way that I show up in community organizing, but are a way for me to express that scholar activism, that there's no theory without praxis mentality and value. And I think even as I am still in the heat of my PhD program with many years ahead, I know that I will continue to seek out these spaces. I will continue to seek out community with resonating values, because not only does it continue to develop my own understanding of self, but it helps me to honor the unique integrity of those around me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. You have me in my feels. I just, I truly resonate with bringing our ancestors forward into the spaces with which we're doing this work, and talking through the complexities of working through all of our identities, because that is part of the work. So thank you so much, Isabella. Really proud to work with you, and really appreciate everything you've brought and continue to bring. So before I introduce our next speaker, just want to give you a reminder that any gift made tonight will be matched. So if you haven't yet, please click into the link in the chat and make an investment in Weave's work. As you can see, I think we also included some links to some of the projects that Isabella was a part of during her time at Weave. And so, we appreciate every bit. And with that, I'll move on to introducing our next speaker, Angel Carrasco. Bring Angel on, and yeah, there we go. Welcome, Angel. Thank you for being here. So Angel is a film and history student at UC Berkeley, originally from Los Angeles, California, and their work has heavily focused on supporting the youth through tutoring, organizing, and teaching. Besides teaching, they believe that the connection between social justice and art is crucial to make changes. They're a photographer, a poet, and a filmmaker as well. And their work with Weave has helped them learn about issues that are not talked about often. This has inspired them to work on outreach that emphasizes the importance of including and highlighting all marginalized people in organizing for a better world. Again, thank you for being here, Angel, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I need to pull up my notes real quick. So first, thank you for the introduction, Amber. Just to add on to that, I'm from LA, like Amber said. I'm from Koreatown, which is a predominantly Latinx and Indigenous community, and it's a low-income community. And so, like, I'm very aware that my community doesn't have the resources that we need. So my community and other communities like mine is what is always like on my mind. And so I've been organizing for a couple of years now, doing different things because different things affect me. I'm queer, um, I'm indigenous, I'm poor, so everything like affects me. And so it wasn't until the summer that I started doing work around like um, learning more about toxic chemicals and menstrual products and cleaning products and just products that we use every day. Um, and like, yes, I did know that certain things were affecting my family. Like I have a lot of family members who do cleaning, and well, I grew up seeing like their hands that were like, you know, messed up from the products that they used. But I never really like knew like the specifics, like also like respiratory illnesses and all those things. Um, and so like when I started working here, I started reflecting a lot like on my childhood and like just the lack of resources that we've always had. And with this realization, like I learned that I just wanted to work on making information accessible to people without there being shame for people who don't know those things. Like I didn't know this up until like very recently. Um and so I'm so sorry, I'm kind of nervous. But I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You're doing great. You're doing great. I'm following everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So with this realization and like knowing what I want to emphasize my work specifically with Weave, um, like I have tried to emphasize like doing this work for people of color, specifically Indigenous and Black people, queer people, and low income people. We suffer the most when it comes to these chemicals because we literally don't have access to anything else. Like, and the truth is, like, even when I can't, like, even if there's disinformation out there, even if people do know that these things are bad, like, there just isn't any other options. And it's just like difficult to get access to products that aren't as harmful. And so that's why, like, one of the most important things that I have learned and that I enjoyed during my fellowship with Weave was learning about how to make your own products at home, which even then it's still a hassle because some people just might not have the time. But I appreciated that the products that I learned about are easy to make and they don't take that much time. So that's something that's really important to me. There's a lot of barriers that prevent us from staying safe like every day. And so that's why like I'm really enjoying my work around safer cleaning right now. Um, I'm so sorry. With my work at Weave, I've learned how to like how to make presentations, how to even though it doesn't seem like that right now. I'm just kidding. How to make presentations, how to create like toolkits so that information is like accessible and you can pass it around to whoever you want to pass it around to. Um, I've learned how to do like some research and like what the importance of that is. So I've gained a lot of different skills in like different areas, I think. And so this makes you feel excited for the future because in the long term, I want to continue using what I've learned with Weave. Um, and to me, I also appreciate how um, I've learned how to work like with a team, even though like it's kind of hard for me to work with everyone because of school. Like I think that I am listened to at work, and I also like appreciate that I always get feedback on things and that people are always open to listen, and we're always learning from each other and we're like always teaching each other things. Um and to me, that's why like it's special to work here. And like um I'm sorry. And also to me, it's important because I know that like in the past, Weave's audience consisted a lot on like middle class people or like white women. And I am excited that I can be someone to provide this information for other communities too, because sometimes like it's just nice to have those connections, and it's easier to like talk to people when like you can relate to them. And to me, this means that like we're one step further to reaching like a world where people don't have to worry about if their products like will hurt them in the long term or whatever. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Can you, am I off mute? Okay, there we go. No, thank you so much. I think you did an amazing job. So your presentation skills, we saw them come through too. But no, I truly appreciate, you know, you bringing that perspective. I grew up in similar community, and it's so important for us to have people from different lived backgrounds and different lived experiences working together, right, on these issues, because they impact us all in different ways, and sometimes in other communities more than others, right, disproportionately. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure. Just a side note, Angel also was a RASCI, reproductive rights activist service corps intern with us over the summer, and decided to stay on again for another year. So again, we're thrilled to have you, and we're thankful for all the work that you're doing. So thank you. All right, well, our next speaker is Emily Bedeker. And Emily, I think actually I'll wait for Emily to join me on screen. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for being here. Emily is a hairstylist, small business owner, and a mom. She's been working in the beauty industry for over 20 years. And about 10 years ago, after the birth of her son, she returned to work in the salon and found that the chemicals were being used were making her sick. She also started to realize that if these chemicals were making her sick, they probably weren't very good for the planet either. So she immediately began to speak out about the dangers of the products used in hair salons, specifically. She then, or since then, excuse me, she has worked to educate stylists and customers about these harmful chemicals. Emily believes that beauty professionals deserve to work in a safe environment because no one should have to sacrifice their health and well-being to make a living. And I couldn't agree more. So welcome, Emily, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and share my story with you today. I learned a lot just from sort of sitting down to put this story together. So I'm already feeling just so very grateful. I fell in love with the art of hair when I was a teenager. Changing my own hair color felt like magic. I loved the way I could change my hair color or get a new cut, and it would shift my energy and perspective in this really cool way. And it was such a fun way to express my creativity and play with my identity. I loved it so much that I decided to make it my job. And I couldn't believe that I could get paid to do this, really. I was just like so over the moon about it. And 24 years later, I still feel that way. I still really love what I do. I've had a career along the way. I've had a great career along the way, and I've worked with some of the brightest, most creative, hardworking people you will ever meet. Hairstylists are magic makers, artists, mathematicians, scientists, entrepreneurs, innovators, healers, therapists, and so much more. We take something that grows on your head and we turn it into art. How amazing is that? On average, there are 100,000 hairs growing on your head right now. And a hairstylist can take those hairs and turn them into a shape. And it's incredible. We create little wearable miracles on your head. It wasn't until the home hair fails of the pandemic that people truly started to realize how complicated our job actually is. Now, more than ever, I feel like people are just loving their trips to the salon and their time with their stylists. It's a place where therapeutic self-care meets artistic, creative self-expression. It's an amazing job, but there's a dark side that's not being talked about enough. And that's the way that big beauty product companies and corporations control the salon industry and use salon professionals like myself as their unwitting salespeople for their products. As stylists, the product industry has a huge influence on how we work. I want to give you a little background about how that works before I get into the specific issue that brought me here today. When I was a brand new stylist starting out, there was only one aspect of my job that made me uncomfortable, but it seemed non-negotiable. And that was the product industry. In every salon I've ever worked in, there's been an expectation that as a stylist, you must use and sell lots of products. Professional salon product companies work kind of like a pyramid scheme in the way that the people making the money are up at the top. And what they do is the salon exclusive brands will partner with small hair salons, partner in quotations for sure, it's not a partnership. And they basically, without telling you, use you as their salespeople. And for how much work you do to sell their products, you don't make much money at all. It's a small commission, which adds up to maybe $5, $10 a day, but it's in everything you do. And honestly, until I sat down to write about this, I hadn't given much thought about it. It just was truth. It just was what it was. That's what we had to do. I'm over here like so mad at the product industry, and I still hadn't till writing this, hadn't thought about how did we get here? Like, why do they control the industry in the way that they do? So I want to give you one just like little example of the way this works. So as I said, you don't make much money from selling products. It's maybe a 10% commission. But what you do, the way they incentivize you is that they create rewards programs. And you get points for selling products, and then you can use those for these rewards. But the rewards are either more hair products or they're advanced education classes. And in those classes, basically, the teacher will come teach you a new haircut or some sort of a service or a styling method, but they're always going to teach you that you can only do this thing if you use all of their products. So you are at minimum going to be using a shampoo, a conditioner, a leave-in conditioner, a styling tonic, and a hairspray. And then you're going to tell your client that the only way they can get this great haircut that you've done for them or this great color that you've done for them to look good at home is if they buy all of these things. Good hair is reliant on good products. That's the lie they teach you, and then they teach you to pass that lie down to your clients. They'll tell you find the problem, but no matter what it is, our products are always the solution. Your hair is too thin, too frizzy, too thick. It's fine, but there's a lot of it. It's curly, it's too curly. It's curly in some places, it's not curly in others. These are all just fake problems. They're not real problems. I always tell my clients when they say, what can I do about this weird hair I have here? My solution is just decide that it's cute, because it is. We're cute. We're cute people. And this is all really messed up, right? The way they sort of brainwash us into being their salespeople. But then it gets even worse because the stuff that they're selling us is making us sick. And they know it and they don't care. In Europe, they have banned or restricted more than 1,300 chemicals from their cosmetic and beauty industry products. The US has outlawed or just curbed 11. So that's a big difference, right? And they haven't updated their regulations, the FDA, since 1938. They can do better, but they don't care. Hairstylists are getting sick from their jobs. These products are dangerous for everyone, But while the customer may use a shampoo or a styling product once a day, hairstylists are using multiple products on multiple clients. We're putting that product in our hands, it's being absorbed into our skin, and we're breathing it in through our lungs. And we're breathing in the products that everyone around us in the salon are using in as well. We have some of the highest rates of both breast and bladder cancer. And then these product companies have the audacity to put pink ribbons on their packaging to boost sales during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But you know what would be better than those pink ribbons would be just like making products that don't cause cancer. They can make them. I know they can. I make products here at home in my kitchen all the time. It's pretty easy, but they don't do it. It costs a tiny bit more money to make products that are safe and gentle and don't harm people. So they don't do it. So that's just a little example of how intertwined hairstylists and the product industries are, and sort of the imbalance of power that exists there. And so now this takes me to the main event, why I am here, why I got connected with Weave. The absolute biggest lie that the industry has sold us to date is that straight, smooth hair is the best hair and we should all want it. For the last few decades, it's been an unspoken rule that if you want to be taken seriously, you must have smooth, straight hair. It sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but it's true. And I shouldn't need to tell you that people of color are disproportionately affected by these unethical beauty standards. The message has literally been like, if you want to find love and keep a job, you need smooth, straight hair. They don't care about your physical health. We saw that already with the chemicals, but they're also coming for your mental health. So the reason that I'm here is because the absolute worst, most toxic product that has come to date to the market is the Brazilian blowout. That's the keratin hair straightening treatment that has been around for about a decade. The path to the blowout looks like this. In the late 80s, all of this campaigning, telling people that, in the 80s, we had big hair, it was frizzy, that was great. All of a sudden it was like, frizz is bad and you need to buy these products because you're a hot frizzy mess. And then in the 90s, the flat iron came on the scene. So it was like, oh, don't worry, your hair can be straighter and smoother than ever. Just get up 2 hours early every day and spend the morning frying your unruly hair into submission. People are doing it. Most people were doing it. And then in the 2000s, this amazing new product came on the market, the Brazilian blowout, here to save the day and hurt us and kill some people, actually, literally. People have died. The Brazilian blowout contains chemicals that create a formaldehyde vapor that is easily absorbed into the lungs and has been proven to cause cancer. But I guess you won't have to spend all that time flat ironing your hair, so it's worth it. The first time someone did a Brazilian blowout in the salon I was working at, the room filled with this toxic vapor, and I had my first migraine headache. I didn't even know what a migraine felt like until that day. And I remember I felt so sick, I was scared to drive home from work. And I tried to talk to my coworkers about it, but everyone will kind of say like, oh yeah, well, I heard a rumor that it's bad for you or it causes cancer, but it was a really high ticket item and hairdressers want to make money. They're underpaid as it is. So it sort of was a no brainer. They were just like, well, let me ignore that information and do it anyways. For me, I couldn't even work in salons that were performing the Brazilian blowout. Even with good ventilation, the vapors were making me really sick. And so I had to find my own way. I left behind the toxic products, stopped working in salons that performed the Brazilian blowout and or used really any kind of toxic products. And then I started teaching other stylists and my customers what I knew, but it's been really hard. People believe in the FDA. And actually speaking to a reporter from the New York Times for Weave, I had a sort of an aha moment because she asked me, why do you think stylists are still doing this if it's causing them harm? And I think there are a lot of reasons, but I really think people believe, of course they're going to believe the FDA and these big companies over me. It's sad, but it's true. So this is why we need the Brazilian blowout to be taken, and just for information, they can also be called keratin straighteners. It's the same thing. I just like to call out the Brazilian blowout because they're the first and major, most evil company that has been doing this, putting this product out. But we need it taken off the market. WEAVE has petitioned the FDA to ban keratin straighteners such as the Brazilian blowout. I've been helping with them just by talking to the press and sharing my story. And I'm so grateful for that. For so long, it just felt like this big problem that I knew about, but I didn't know anyone who cared or who could do anything to help. So I'm so grateful to WEAVE. And I hope sharing my story helps you understand a little bit of how we got to this place. And I want to end here on a positive note because I like that. There's absolutely another way. We can remove the toxic ingredients and shame-based practices of the corporate product industry, and we can transform the salon experience. Small brands are already emerging all the time, and they're making products that care for your hair, keep it healthy, and they use safe ingredients. Bigger brands are seeing this, and some are even starting to remove the harmful chemicals from their formulas. So that's a good sign. Hair salons can be safe spaces for nurturing, healing, and creative self-expression. Hairstylists can do what they do best, make people feel good. As human beings, we're naturally inclined to decorate and celebrate our bodies, and we don't have to stop that. It's one of the many adorable things about us. We can create and recreate the visual expression of ourselves in ways that feel authentic because we're beautiful and we deserve better. Yeah, that's it. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I couldn't agree more. There were some gems there. I think, people were loving the miracle on the head, I think, in the chat. And no, I mean, it's a real concern. And I know firsthand from exposure, my wife's exposure and to chemicals in the salon, and just our journey to trying to build a family. So yeah. No, it's real. So thank you again.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Also, thanks again to Isabella and Angel. We're so lucky to know you all, support you, and work with you on creating change in your spaces. So wow, so we're so close to reaching our $25,000 goal, our $25,000 goal. I see that we're nearing 20,000 so far, just through this event. So thank you everyone who has already donated. For those who have not, your gift could be the one that puts us, past the finish line. So please remember it'll be matched, and you can see that link in the chat. And with that, I'm very excited to introduce our final speaker, WEAVE's board chair, Amy Thorne-Thompson. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amber.
Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. Amy is a longtime reproductive justice activist who focuses on advocating with and for women, communities of color, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and young people. And she recently launched Guerrera Strategies, which is a woman of color-led strategic consulting firm with other women of color from progressive movements. Prior to that, she served as the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships of Advocates for Youth, where she oversaw and coordinated the development, implementation, and evaluation of advocates' strategic partnerships with youth activists and organizations in allied social justice movements. Amy was also interim executive director of the Estrella Lesbian Foundation for Justice and executive director of the Pro-Choice Public Education Project, PEP. She's also the co-chair of the board of directors of Sister Song, Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective, and a member of the board of directors for the Civil Liberties and Public Policy Program. And I can't express enough how thrilled we are to have Amy on our board. So with that, please take it away, Amy.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you everyone for being with us tonight. I have to say that I wasn't planning on being so moved by tonight's comments, and I found myself writing notes from our speakers tonight about their journey and where it resonated for me, thinking about community and family and those who came before us and the resources that we do and don't have, and making magic. Emily, I'm never going to think about my hair the same way again. And for folks who weren't with us during the prep, I was talking about I hadn't gotten my hair cut in like 2 years because of the pandemic. And suddenly I'm thinking about just all the people in my life who work on the hair and thinking of them as magic makers. And I really think about those of us who are active in our communities as magic makers, and what does it mean to take on that role? I'm really feeling so honored to be with you here tonight and be a part of this community, to listen and learn about the work that Isabela, Angel, and Emily have done, and to lift up and support their leadership, as well as to continue the leadership and the work of some of my fellow board members like Dr. Sally Edwards and Dr. Nicole Acevedo, who have been doing the work in the field. And really, I'm here to propel forward WEAV's work to eliminate toxic chemicals from the products that harm us and our families. And as a curly-haired girl, I really can relate to a lot of what Emily brought up in her remarks and shared with us. And so, as Amber said, environmental health and justice isn't my primary political home. Reproductive health rights and justice is. You could say that's where I grew up. That's where I got my political education and learning, and where I learned skills to make the changes I wanted to see in the world. And yet the intersections between environmental health and justice and reproductive health rights and justice are numerous. For me, what stands out is that the people most impacted by reproductive oppression are, the people who are impacted by the most, the lack of resources, as Angel said, right? The lack of services and information. And those people are the same ones who are impacted by toxic chemicals, right? So we're talking by and large about women and girls and femmes and people of color, low income folks, LGBTQ folks, immigrants, and young people. And like Emily and others, I want to end on I want to lift up the good news, if you will. The people who are making the most change, the most badass change, who are taking the biggest risks and really trying to change the world are those same people, right? And those are the people that we find in the WEAVE community. And so it's why I joined WEAVE as someone who doesn't come primarily out of this movement, because I wanted to contribute in any way I could to the way the intersectional approach and the really groundbreaking thinking that is sort of a part of everything that WEAVE does, from the policy work to the research and communications and the organizing and leadership development work. It's just all, it speaks to me as a Latina, as the daughter of a queer mother, as, just someone who's deeply concerned about what are we leaving for those who come behind us. I wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted to figure out how I could support WEAVE's work in removing toxic chemicals from the products we use every day. And for me, that meant especially supporting and building up young leaders, because that's what I've done most of my activist career, training and supporting and mentoring people, mostly people of color, to take action on the issues that impact their lives and their families and their communities. So a lot of what Isabela said and Angel shared really speaks to my experience, right? Of what does it mean when we share tools and information and other resources with our communities and how that enables them to use their own voices and their own lived experiences to advocate for change. And the more of us who do that, right, who support new, young, emerging leaders, the greater our voice and power to remove toxic chemicals from everyday products, to repeal bad laws, and to hold bad actors accountable for the harms they have caused us, our families, and our communities. And I know this works because that's how I came to movement work. Other people, elders, and some of my peers spent an enormous, and still spend an enormous amount of time teaching me and coaching me and listening to me and challenging me, and more than on one occasion correcting me, and really, really giving me the tools that I would need to recognize and use my power to make change for myself and my community. That to me is what leadership development looks like. And without those people, I absolutely would not be an activist today. For me, that's what drives my commitment to Weave. And in my mind, it's what sets our work apart from so many others. Because Weave is dedicated to lifting up the voices and the leadership of people like our speakers tonight, who are fighting for a healthier environment, not just for women and girls, but for all of us. And we deserve that. And so, you know, like you, they're tired. I'm tired of the constant exposure to toxic chemicals in our homes and in our workplaces, in our bodies. And Isabella, Angel, and Emily have dedicated themselves to creating the kind of world where health and safety of their communities is a priority. And I want it to be a priority for my community too, right? So I'm just so moved, so excited to be a part of this community, to have you with us. It's an opportunity for you to become a bigger part of the work than you already are. And I'm going to invite you to donate to continue to build our power and our momentum towards safer, healthier communities, and help us sustain the work and development of some of the leaders you heard from tonight and many others who you haven't yet gotten to be in community with. We can't do this work without you. In fact, we're only able to do this work because we do it with you and alongside you. And your support means that our folks, our fellows, our interns, our volunteers, our staff have the tools and the trainings and the resources they need to move the movement forward. And your generosity is a sign of your commitment to really wanting to build power and momentum for healthier communities and for a healthier planet. And so I ask that you give what you can, and give tonight, as you've heard us say multiple times, and you've heard us say in the chat, a generous friend of the organization, a former board member, Allison Chin, has offered to match all the gifts made during the event. So whatever you give tonight will be doubled, and whatever gift you give really means that we can continue to support the leaders that you've heard from tonight and their amazing work. And so I really thank you for joining us tonight, for being a part of the Weave community. And thank you. And Amber, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, I'm in my feels, I will say. I'm always so inspired, and I've been missing being in community with folks. And so this is a wonderful opportunity. And I just want to thank you, Amy, all of our speakers again, all of you for joining. I've been enjoying connecting with some of the past board members in the chat. And also, you know, would like to just give an update. We came so close to our goal. I think we're at about 22,000 as of now that you help raised, that you've helped us raise this evening. So your donations, a lot of you, your advocacy, and all the times you continue to show up for Weave and the work means so much to all of us. As you can tell, so many of us are so passionate about the work that we do. You know, it's personal, and you know, it shows up in the professional. And so I'm so thankful to be able to do the work that I do with the team I do it with, my board and staff, everybody who is a part of this organization and has been, are just the most thoughtful, brilliant folks that I've had the opportunity to work with. And so I just want to say, in addition to, giving tonight, if you too would like to engage deeper in Weave's work and learn more about how you can get involved in our leadership development opportunities, our action groups, workshops, trainings, anything else, please connect with Maria Ignacia, our program and outreach manager. I know we'll put Maria's information in the chat for folks, and it'll be in the email follow-up that you'll receive with the recording, and any other opportunities to give if you weren't able to tonight. Again, thank you for being here. We're grateful for your time. I know we went a little bit over, and I see most people stuck on, so thank you for that, your generosity, your thoughtfulness, and your commitment to building a better world. I hope you all have a beautiful evening, and stay safe and healthy. And we'll see you next time. Thank you all. Yay.
If ever I could see you again. If ever I could see you again. Won't you take me back to where we used to play? Hang on every word, hang on every moment. I know you're in between now and I know you can't stay. Give me one more rising sun, just one more setting moment. It felt so bright, I had to turn away. Turn back around, and the moment had been stolen. You make magic out of nothing, you make my fears go away. But who will make the words, or find the answers for them? If ever I could see you again. If ever I could see you again.